to be my October reading wrap up. I read 20 books in the month of October, which is quite a lot. The only reason why I read 20 books this month is because I read one short story at the end of the month, but I actually ended up listening to that book. So I wanted to squeeze in like a little short story before the month was over. I basically stuck to my TBR this entire month. I really only read that short story and a sequel to a book that was already on my TBR that I just wanted to jump right into right after I finished the first book that was on my TBR. So, yeah, honestly, just simply ran out of time to get to all the books that I wanted to get to, but I pretty much stuck to my TBR. So, the first book that I read in the month of October was Soul Searching by Lila Sage. I'm just going to talk about them holding them up on my phone. I honestly don't feel like grabbing the books right now. I've been working every single day since Tuesday, so I'm pretty tired. So I just wanted to, actually since Wednesday. So I just wanted to film this, and get it up. So this is the first book in the Sweetwater Peak novel series, and this is Lila Sage's new book that came out at the end of September. And this is a paranormal romance, if I could speak English. It's a paranormal romance about two a couple named the male character is named, the heck is his name? I know her name is named Collins, right? Her name is, Jesus motherfucking Christ, I am sorry. Her name is Collins, and his name is unknown because I don't remember his name. So anyway, basically Collins is, she's never really been in a relationship before, and the main male character lives in like a small town, and she is trying to figure out whether or not she wants to stay in Sweetwater. Is it Sweetwater Creek? Sweetwater Peak. Oh my God. Or, go back to where she's living now because she's not sure if she wants to stay in the small town that she was raised in because her parents still live there, and also like Brady is his name. Oh my God, his name is Brady and her name is Collins. I'm sorry. And her family has always had like special abilities to talk to ghosts. And I'm pretty much going to leave it there. I really liked this. I thought it was really cute. I gave it a 4.5. It was almost a 5-star, honestly. This is probably my second favorite book that I've read by Lila Sage because you guys know that I wasn't that big of a fan of the first two books in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. Why am I glitching? But I really did enjoy the third and fourth books, Lost and Lassoed and Wild and Wrangled. Wild and Wrangled was my favorite book in the entire series, and that actually came out earlier this year. It came out in April, so she actually had 2 releases this year. I had no idea that she had 2 releases, and I was like, wow, they both came out the same year. And this was just a fun Halloween little read. The only reason why it wasn't a 5-star is because I wish that there was a little bit more of paranormal things going on. There was really only one, like, plot of, I'm sorry, this light is way too bright, so I needed to turn it down. And you guys don't need to see my face with no makeup on. I just wish there was some more, like, paranormal encounters that she had with ghosts. They really only concentrated on she really only concentrated on telling like one ghost story, and I kind of wanted just a little bit more. But besides that, it was really fun and entertaining. And I really liked the way Brady treated Collins too. Like the way that he was nervous to move forward, sexually in their relationship was just so cute. The way that he was hesitant. I just really loved it. So, because it's usually the woman that's always hesitant, but I love that she made it the man in this one. So, it was just really, really good. So, next up, I read Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice by Katie Cicatelli Cook. And this is what the cover looks like. So, me and Felicia and my other friend Becca decided to buddy read this book. And honestly, the only reason why we really wanted to read this book is because Barnes and Noble was offering this book for the $5 with the purchase of anything from the cafe, you get this book for $5. And it's usually like a seasonal kind of book or like a holiday kind of book. So, but we didn't realize that this isn't YA. This is middle grade because this was just way too young for us to read. So we didn't really like it. But it's about this girl named Lucy, and basically this like she runs the cafe with her mom, like the town cafe. And they've always been basically the only coffee shop in town where everybody gets their coffee from. It's like a small town um setting. But this other family moves in and they open up a coffee place across the street called Java Junction, and basically they want to start making pumpkin spice lattes. And basically the whole book is Lucy's the main character and Jack is the main male character, and basically Lucy just wants to obsess over making the perfect pumpkin spice latte so she can compete with Jack and see who has the better pumpkin spice latte. And that's basically the whole book. I gave this book like a 2.75, maybe even possibly a 3-star, because it was okay for what it was, but it's just not for me. I'm not saying that this is a bad book whatsoever. It's just too young for me. So I gave it a 3-star. It wasn't really something that I would recommend for my age group because there's a difference between YA and middle grade. Like, you all know, I will represent YA till the day I die. You guys know how much I love YA. I think it's very represented though, because sometimes it could be a little bit too young, or there's like I always gauge like YA with being like Lynn Painter or older. Like, I'm saying young adult is like pretty much 16 to like almost 23. Okay, maybe like 16 to like 20. Okay, or like even like 13 to no 13. No, they're not young adults. I would say like 16 to 20 is what I would say, because they're like teenagers transitioning into adults, which is usually what young adult is. Anyway, it wasn't very good. So anyway, next up, I read my least favorite book, not just in October, but in the entire year of 2025. I was about to say the entire month of 2025. No, it's a year, Caitlin. And I was sent this arc quite a few months ago. I got it, I think, back in like May or something. And this was the sequel to A Fire in the Sky by Sophie Jordan. And I read A Scar in the Bone. And I was kindly sent this in advance. So thank you, NetGalley. And this is the second book in the Fire in the Sky series. Now, I really do not want to go into this book and trash it. And, I could go and rant about this book for so long, but this was a 1-star. This book was awful. It was just awful. I was so confused in the beginning, and then towards the middle, there was like one thing that happened that I was like, okay, maybe we'll start getting better from here. And literally, like, I'm saying like the chapter after that happened, because I was like, oh, a character arc is happening. Maybe it'll improve by here. No, it just got worse. And I'm just going to tell you guys like really quickly in like a minute or two why this was so bad. One, like I said, it was confusing as hell. There was like that one thing that happened, but in the beginning, I was just so bored. I was so bored. I'm like, nothing is happening. And then basically in the second half of the book, there was a cheating trope that happened that was so awful that I'm like, literally, like, if this character decides to go down this path, which I thought that she was going to, thank God she didn't. Even though she didn't, it still didn't get any better from there. because people say that there's so much that happens off page in this book that's why everybody's so confused. And also, like, this book takes place a year after the events of A Fire in the Sky. But basically, I don't know what happened with this book. Maybe they just rushed it out too quickly because A Fire in the Sky came out in January, okay? Romance and thriller books are a little bit easier to, like, get out. Like with fantasy books, cuz like I said with Lila Sage's books, one came out in April and one came out in October, but with romance books and thriller books, like Frida McFadden had 3 releases this year. It's really not her best work, but I'm saying, like, with fantasy books, you can't really rush them out as fast as like some other genres because you have a lot of world building, you have a lot of time with these characters, especially a second book in a series, and 99% of the time fantasy books are going to be series. So I was really excited for this book, but literally every single review that I had read of this book that people had read this in advance said it was bad. Literally like 1 to 2 star reviews, basically every single review that I read of this book before I read it. And usually for me, I love to give books a chance. Like, we want to love every single book that we read, okay? But there's just some things that occur in this book that just was really just not good. And it gave me the ick so badly. I just could not look past it. I'm like, you're telling me that we're throwing out all of the character building that we did in A Fire in the Sky of the couple, and we're just throwing that out the window. That's basically what happened. It was bad. And then the rest of the book was literally, after that cheating trope, was such a hot mess. And tell me why we don't see the main male character until like 85, almost 90% into the book. And it was just bad. I'm sorry. I'm not going to trash it any longer. But yeah, 1 star. Honestly, there was nothing redeeming about this book. That's how bad it was. Okay, next up, speaking of Lynn Painter, I read her new release, Fake Skating. Now, I was a little bit hesitant to go into this book because you guys know, speaking of books I didn't like, I really didn't like Nothing Like the Movies, and that was my least favorite YA book, and also my least favorite book that I've read from Lynn Painter. I really did not like it. Like, I feel like Nothing Like the Movies was a scar in the bone, but the romance version, not the fantasy version. But y'all, Scar in the Bone was so bad. So bad. But anyway, this book was really, really cute. I really liked this, and I still want to read all of Lynn Painter's YA releases. She's kind of like one of my authors that I have to read every single book, you know? So this book is about Danny and Alec. And Danny moves back to Minnesota with her mom because her mom and dad had recently split up, and they have to go back to Minnesota to live with her mom's father, her grandfather. And basically she has to go back to a new school, and Danny and her were basically childhood best friends, and they're basically strangers to lovers. Who did I see review this book? Larry from Larry Reed said, like, they're kind of like best friends to strangers to lovers, back to strangers again, back to friends, back to lovers. So that's basically what it's about. But it was fun, and basically they both decide to fake date each other because Danny wants to get into is it Harvard? Basically it's kind of like a Gilmore Girls like spin-off. And Danny wants no, not Danny. Alec needs to stay on the hockey team, and Alec is a little bit of a troubled kid. He's kind of always getting into fights. He likes to drink, he likes to smoke pot, like all of that. And basically, like, everybody says it would be good for not just Danny, but also Alec to have them get together to date. And then, of course, they end up falling for each other. So it was just really cute. It was really funny. This book was reminding me of why I love Lynn Painter's writing, because Lynn Painter can kind of say some things in books that only she can get away with. You know what I mean? Like, some of her dialogue can sometimes go a little bit too far, but I'm like, oh, they're teenagers. They're always mean to each other. But, like, to a certain extent, like, I feel like in some of her previous books, like, the main male character was, like, really mean, like, especially in the Do-Over. But, like, in her newer books, especially this book and Betting on You, it's, like, to a certain extent where it's hilarious, but they're also, like, pushing the envelope a lot, but in a good way. And it's just really, really funny. Okay. The next series that I read, I'm going to grab the physical book, so give me a second, because I have to rave about this series. And I'm basically going to talk about them at the same time, so that's why I wanted to grab them. So I finally read the entire Bridge Kingdom series, if I can hold it up properly. So we have The Bridge Kingdom, The Traitor Queen, The Inadequate Heir, The Endless War, and The Twisted Throne, all by Danielle L. Jensen. And you guys, I read this at the absolute perfect time. I will tell you why. But these were my absolute favorite books that I read this month. So Scar and the Bone was my least favorite. And I'll tell you guys what my favorite book was in this series. But literally every single book was 5 stars, except for The Twisted Throne. So Bridge Kingdom, 5 stars. And The Traitor Queen, 5 stars. I'm just going to talk about these 2 books together, and then I'll talk about the other 2 together because these are based on one couple. It's kind of similar to, well, it's very similar to the Crowns of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent. Basically, she makes separate duologies, but they're all in the same series, but they're based on different couples. So, like, the first 2 books in the Bridge Kingdom series is Aaron and Laura, and I absolutely love these. I love Aaron and Laura. The banter in this, the action, the romance, the sex, it's all just so freaking good. And literally, this is what made me fall in love with Danielle L. Jensen's writing. I've been wanting to find a 5-star by Danielle L. Jensen because the only other books that I've read by her is the Fate, Ink, and Blood duology. So after I finish the book that I'm currently listening to by her, I will have read 8 books by her, which is a lot. That's probably the most fantasy books that I've read by a fantasy author since Tahira Mafi. Because I read the entire Shatter Me series this year, and I also read the This Woman's Kingdom series this year, so she's my most read author this year. But basically, I love these. I don't really want to go too much into them, but these are more elemental kind of fantasy books. They're very water-based because a lot of the action and these scenes occur on ships. And basically, the Bridge Kingdom means, like, the 2 rival kingdoms are connected by this bridge. And, you know, Aaron is the king of the, of her homeland. And she is basically trying to come back to, because they think that she's like a rebel, and they think that she's going to betray him, and that's basically what this book is about. That's why this is called The Traitor Queen. But the way that these books are so fast paced, I got through these so fast. I think it took me less than 2 weeks to read the whole series, and just absolutely love these. There's not really much magic in them. It's a lot more based on the couples. And also, these books are very war heavy. So, all throughout the 5 books and throughout the entire series, there's basically an endless war going on. And that's why there's a book called The Endless War. But I absolutely loved these. I don't really want to talk too much about them because I'm not spoiling it for you guys. But you just have to read the series, seriously. They're so good. I can't believe I put them off for so long. And I'm like, why did I put them off for so long? Because they're amazing. And then I read The Inadequate Heir and The Endless War. And the couple in this one is, in these 2 books are Zara and, oh my god, Karis. I love these books. The Inadequate Heir was my favorite book in this series. And then The Endless War. And then The Bridge Kingdom, then The Traitor Queen, and then The Twisted Throne. Karis and Zara, Holy shit, they go through the gigs. They go through it. And what I also love about these books is that they're all enemies to lovers books. But the way that she brings Karis and Zara back together, like, yes, they are both true enemies to lovers couples and throughout the entire series. But Zara and Karis, they betray each other constantly, like brutally. And they still end up being back with each other. And that's all I'm going to say. That's literally all I'm going to say. Also, I can't remember half of what the other things that have happened, but I'm telling you, these are both 5 stars. It's a 6-star series for me, don't get me wrong. Maybe a 5-star series, actually, because not every single book was 5 stars. But I just freaking loved these. Seriously, they're so good. And basically the events of the war are still going on, and that's why this one is called The Endless War, The Inadequate Heir. You find out who it is in this book. I'm not going to say who. It's kind of similar to like the Ember and the Ashes series, where you find out who the Ember and the Ashes is, who the Torch Against the Night is, because you don't find out until you read the books. Who's the Reaper at the Gates? Who's the Sky Beyond the Storm? Like, they're referring to actual people. And even though there's no magic in these, there is like kind of a rumor and also like a legend of like witches existing and stuff in like the later books. So that's all I'm going to say. But absolutely phenomenal duology. This probably was one of my favorite romantic duologies that I've read so far. Oh my god, so amazing. Literally mind-blowingly good. And then the last one is The Twisted Throne, and this one is about James and Anna. And this one, I just wasn't really feeling the story as much as the first 4, but I still gave this a 4.5. It was still really good. I still really love the characters in these series. Like, honestly, you fall in love with the characters in these series because they are amazing. And again, the sex is so hot and the romance and the action and everything, but it was kind of getting a little repetitive having an enemies to lovers story all the time, but I still really, really enjoyed it. But the betrayal between these two as well is brutal. Absolutely brutal. That's all I'm going to say, because I really don't want to ruin your experience of reading these books. And basically the war is still going on, and then you find out exactly what the Twisted Throne actually means. So now I'm in the middle of listening to the 6th book called The Tempest Blade, and it is not out physically. That's why I don't own it. That's why I'm not holding it in this video, because it's not out until next April, but it's on Audible. The audiobook came out, I think, the 1st or 2nd week of October. So since I had just finished The Twisted Throne on the 17th of October, I had no idea that the 6th book was on Audible. And it came out, like, I think, like, the 11th of October. And I jumped into it maybe, like, a couple of days after I found that it was on there. So, I think I'm halfway through at this point because, you know, I'm listening to, like, 10 million other books and new releases and everything. So, I try to listen to it when I can, and I guarantee this one's going to be a 6-star book. Because this is with all the characters together, and this is the finale of the series, and I'm absolutely freaking obsessed with this book. So we have Aaron, we have Laura, we have Karis, we have Zara, and we have James, and we have Anna. And it's just amazing. Again, everything that I said about the first 5 books rings true in this book as well. It's just so freaking good. You just have to read it. Okay. Next up, I read a thriller. I'm like, I need a break from some fantasy, and I want to start my Halloween spooky season TBR. So I wanted to read, like I mentioned before, Frida McFadden has come out with 3 books this year. So her 3rd book was The Intruder. I wanted to read at least her new releases this year. I really have not read as many books by her this year, but The Housemaid's coming out in December, and y'all know I'm definitely seeing that movie. I am so excited for it actually because The Housemaid and Never Lie are her two best books. Like most people say that those are her best books anyway. So, this book is about and this was supposed to be my Apple book club pick. And 3 out of the 4 girlies, including myself, read this book, but one of the girlies didn't. But it's okay. We decided to pick this book as our book club pick because we wanted a thriller for October. And one of the other girls was saying, like, have you guys read any Freida McFadden books? And we were like, and I was like, yes, I've read over 10 books at this point, and she actually comes out with a new book very soon. I think it was like 2 days after we decided that we were going to read it, that the book was coming out. So we ended up reading it. So this book is about Casey. And Casey is very abused by her mom. So check your trigger warnings in this book. I don't know why there's no trigger warnings at the beginning of this. I don't think there is, but I might be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, you know, it could be a little bit triggering to some people if I could speak. So this book basically bounces between Casey's perspective and also a older teacher's perspective. I can't remember her name right now either. And the older teacher has been kind of, I guess I would say, fired or let go from her teaching job, and you're trying to find out why she was. And Casey basically, like, you know, really hates her mom. And I would describe this book as kind of a combination of The Teacher and The Tenant. Okay, if you've read either of those books. Freida basically, but I do like that she does that in her books sometimes because, well, most of the time I do like when she makes it similar to some of her other books because the more Freida books you read, the more you pick up of like some Easter eggs that she does leave in each book, which I do really enjoy. And that's mostly why I continue reading her books, even though I'm like, I'm done. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So basically, Casey. Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. The little girl's name, I believe, is Ella. And she's like 13 or 14. Casey is the teacher's name. And basically, Ella, like, crashes Casey's shed one night. And there's like this horrible storm going on. And she is basically in her shed with like a knife and like blood all over her hands. And at first, Casey thought that Ella was there to kill her, but it turns out, like, you know, she, like, takes her in and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why the hell is she taking her in? But, you know, Casey's a little bit unhinged herself. And that's pretty much all I'm going to leave it at. But I did like this one, actually. I like this one more so than The Crash and The Tenant. So it was my favorite book that I've read from Freida this year. I think I give it a 3.75. But nothing has really wowed me from her since, I think the last book I liked from her was One by One. And My Boyfriend's Husband's Secret Lie. I loved that book. I thought that book was so funny. Okay, anyway, next up, we read our second V.E. Schwab book. Now, for me, I am trying to read her entire backlist because I love the way this woman writes, but I'm glad that I got to 2 of her books this year. I'm definitely not getting to any more this year, but I wanted to read her 2 standalone books. So I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue in earlier September. It's November right now, okay? It's the 8th of November. Thank God I'm filming this now. But I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and then her new release came out back in June, and I was finally able to read it with my book bestie Felicia. This was our buddy read for October, and that is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. You guys, the way this woman writes, I swear to God, is just so beautiful. I'm so obsessed with her writing. So I knew I was gonna love this book. So basically, it's a sapphic vampire romance, but it's a very dark romance. So again, check your trigger warnings. Like, so basically, it bounces between like kind of 3 different timelines, and there are multiple different like character perspectives of the main characters. So we have Maria, we have Christine, we have like an Irish woman, I forget her name, but basically like they're the three main POVs that we go through, and Maria's the one that takes place like back in like the 17 or 1800s, and then we do have a modern storyline which is like in 2019, and then Christine as well takes place like past and present. And basically all these women have been somewhat mistreated by men most of their lives, but also they all lesbians, okay? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I eat that shit up. And they don't really realize that they have turned into vampires, because like when you first turn into a vampire, you don't really know what's happening. You kind of like have to, it's like they think that they're sick, but they're not. They just turn out that their heart stops beating and they don't really breathe anymore, and they're basically undead, but just walking around on the streets and stuff. And basically, most of them have been like widowed, and or they want to leave their husbands back in like the 18th, 19th century. And back then, obviously, women couldn't divorce their dads. Yes, their dads. That'd be insane. Their spouses, because it was looked down upon unless they, died. So, and then she could become a widow. And then the Irish woman, Alice, her name is Alice. She is like a college student that also was kind of struggling with being at college, and she kind of gets bitten at one party one night, and then she has to deal with like her intense hunger to suck people's blood. So that's basically what happens. It's just a sapphic vampire book. I can't really say too much more, it's going to spoil it, but I really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4.5. It wasn't quite a 5-star because I thought it was a little bit slow in the middle, but besides that, it was really close, and I thought it was so good. So, you just need to read it. Okay. I don't think this is going to be too long, actually. We only have like 6 or 7 more books to talk about. So next up, I read a duology that was on my TBR since last October, and this was on my Halloween TBR last October as well. So I pretty much kicked off my Halloween TBR with The Intruder and Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, but I really wanted to read the Night of the Witch duology. No, Witch and Hunter duology by Sarah Raish and Beth Ravis, and the first one is called Night of the Witch, and then the second one is called The Fate of Magic. And I finally was able to read both of these, and these were actually a buddy read with my book bestie Felicia. Not Felicia. Why do I always say Felicia? My book bestie Becca. I'm sorry. And basically, this duology is about Otto and what is the girl? Fritzy. Fritzy is a witch, and Otto is a witch hunter. So basically, it's similar to the story of Heartless Hunter and Rebel Witch, but I actually think I enjoyed this more. So basically, Otto is the captain of, he's a Hexenjäger and a captain, the second in command to Dieter Kirk, but that's just his cover. Years ago, the Hexenjägers burned his innocent mother alive, and since then, he has been planning a move against the witch hunters that tore his family apart. And now the time has come for them to pay for what they've done. When Fritzy and Otto are unexpectedly thrown together, neither is sure they can trust each other despite the common enemy. So basically, Otto does not want to kill witches. He's supposed to, but he doesn't want to. And they both have a common enemy that they need to take down. And Fritzy's kind of like wrongfully imprisoned, and she's questioning whether or not she can trust Otto. And that's basically it. It was so good, though. I actually gave this book a 5-star because I loved it. I loved the writing. It was so fast-paced and so good. The second book I gave, I believe, a 4.25. I didn't love it as much as the first book. It's a little bit shorter, But it was such a fun, fast-paced witch hunter duology, and I really did enjoy this duology. It was really, really good. Okay, so, and the common enemy is a lot closer to one of the characters than you think, because they constantly drop hints on why one of these characters is referring to the villain as, from their with their first name, and refer to them using their first name, I mean. So, just really, really good. Okay, next up, I read a new release, and I read the sequel to The Games Gods Play, and that is The Things Gods Break by Abigail Owen. Abigail Owen, if I can speak English. Again, we're almost done. Thank God. And this book came out at the end of October, the 21st of October. I think I read it like the 22nd or something to like the 24th. Just because I wanted to finish The Fate of Magic. These books literally took me like 2 or 3 days to read. Just so fast. And I was really looking forward to the second book in the Crucible series, because this is called the Crucible series. And this is about... Why can't I remember her name? What the hell is the main character's name? Lyra. Lyra and Hades' love story. So basically, Lyra is made into well, I don't know if this is going to be a spoiler. She basically has to compete. It's not really trials in this one, in the second book, but it's kind of similar. She has to fight for her life again in the second book. And Hades is pretty much like damned himself, which is very interesting. Honestly, I really do enjoy this series. I think it's really, really fun. I know some people think it's a little bit adult to be YA, which, yes, it is a little bit adult, because there are like 1 or 2 like adult sex scenes in these books. I don't really understand why, but I'm not complaining. But I think I would describe this as more upper YA. And they basically have to fight against the Titans, and she basically needs to compete trying to defeat them through the different levels of Tartarus, which is the underworld, aka hell, in the Greek Roman mythology. And it was really good. I really enjoyed this. It was a little bit slow in the middle, but then the ending, that cliffhanger, guys, I mean, I'm not going to be too upset about waiting for it. I mean, like I've said, I have 5 million books to read, but the last like 20 pages really made up for kind of the middle like dragging a little bit, and I really did enjoy it. So I gave it a 4.25. So it was fun. Okay. And I really enjoyed the audiobooks, and the voices for this audiobook. I really love Hades' voice, and I really love the banter in these books too. They're really, really fun. And also the Bridge Kingdom audiobooks are so much fun, and the voices are absolutely phenomenal for those books. Okay, next up, I read another buddy read with my book bestie Becca, and that is Blood Moon by Brittany S. Lewis. And honestly, besides Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice and A Scar in the Bone, this was my least favorite book that I've read this month. It was kind of just like a Twilight retelling, so it was kind of boring and really predictable. And also, I thought the main female character was kind of dumb. I'm sorry. Like, I just could not stand her sometimes. And they made her like repeat. I really, really hate when they make the main female characters like dumb. It just freaking bothers me, you guys. Like, I don't understand why they have to like make them so helpless. Like, it doesn't really make sense. But anyway, so Mira is attending like a school that it's called Lakeland University. And there's like 2 guys that she's kind of falling for. One of them is named Julian, and the other one is named... Why don't I see his name here, too? Why is it always so hard to find names? Excuse me, Jesus Christ. And why is everything so freaking bright? Please tell me. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can find it. I can't really find the other guy's name at the current moment, but it doesn't really matter that much. It's not really that important. I need to turn this light off. I'm sorry. My eyes are, like, killing me right now. You're just gonna have to deal. I'm sorry. My head is annoying me. Like, killing me. Sorry. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more books left, and they're all really short. So let's get to it. So basically, a series of killings have happened in this town, and people are thinking it's like a bear, but everybody really thinks that it's a werewolf. Or the main character and the other characters think that it's a werewolf. And also the main female character might be something that she's not, but, you know, she doesn't discover until freaking 80% into the book, even though she kind of knew already. It just took her fucking forever to say out loud. Like, it was just, like, really annoying the crap out of me at one point. I'm gonna turn this light off. Maybe I can just turn the other one on. It's just, like, too freaking bright right now. So basically, she needs to figure out what happened to her mother. And she was raised, like, by her father, but she doesn't really call him dad, which is kind of weird. But he is, like, the town sheriff, and he's kind of suspecting other things have occurred and not just, it being, like, just a logical explanation for what happened, but, you know, something more supernatural. It was okay. But honestly, like, it really was reminding me of a Twilight retelling. So, even though I've never read Twilight before and I refuse, do not tell me to read those books because I will not. I just know I won't like them. I've already seen the movies enough times. But it was okay. I don't really feel like talking about it. It's not that good. It was okay. I was trying to give it a chance, but... And Blood Moon does refer to a werewolf moon. So... Next up, I read What the Hex by Jessica Clare, and I did read this on Libby. Blood Moon, I read physically. I don't know why I didn't tell you guys what I read physically and what I read on Kindle. The Things Gods Break, I read on Kindle Unlimited and listened to on Libby. The Night of the Witch and The Fate of Magic, I read both of them physically and listened to both of them on Libby. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, I read physically and listened to on Libby. The Intruder, I read on Kindle Unlimited and listened to on Audible. And then the Bridge Kingdom series I read physically and also listened to on Audible. For the Bridge Kingdom series, you can actually get all 6 audiobooks for free on Audible. Because it's not just an Audible exclusive. They're just only from Audible, meaning... I guess there's different meanings, like, to what Audible exclusive means. As opposed to, like, which audiobooks you can actually just listen to on Audible without paying for them or without using a credit. I think with Bridge Kingdom it's different because Bridge Kingdom is just, like, being published, like, traditionally published. But with, like, The Will of the Many sequel, The Strength of the Few, which I'm dying to read. I actually have The Will of the Many on my nightstand right now because I'm going to be going into it next after I finish, like, a little palette cleanser because I'm like, I've just been reading too many fantasy books, but I'm so excited to read this book. And the thing is that both of the audiobooks, because the second book is called The Strength of the Few, they're both only on Audible, like, only exclusive to Audible. So I have to figure out how the hell I'm going to be listening to the second book. Because then I'm going to have to pay for it. Because I only have 1 Audible credit, so. And then, like I said, A Scar in the Bone, I read an arc of it, so I read it on my Kindle. Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice, I read the physical book, and then I also listened to it on Libby. Fake Skating, I read it physically and listened to it on Audible. And then Soul Searching, I read on Kindle. I purchased it on Kindle. And then I'm pretty sure, I don't remember how I listened to it. I don't remember what I used to listen to it. I really can't remember what app, but I'll figure it out later. So next up, I read What the Hex by Jessica Clare, and this is the second book in the Hex Yourself series, or Hex series. God, I'm so tired right now. I only have like 5 more books to talk about. And this book is about Penny and hold on. Sorry, I had to turn the other light off because it was really bothering me. So I just want to finish this. I'm literally almost done. So next up was What the Hex. And this is the second book in the Go Hex Yourself series, like I said 5 times already. And I had read the first book back last Halloween. And I really wanted to read the second book this Halloween. So this one is about Penny and Willem. And this book was so funny, you guys. The first book was so funny, so I couldn't wait to read the second book. And this was probably my favorite witchy book that I read. Like a witchy rom-com, and this is probably my favorite romance that I've read in the past couple of weeks. Because I haven't read that many romance books. Like I said, I've been reading a shit ton of fantasy books lately. And all I'm reading is back-to-back new releases right now for fantasy books. And I've read like 3 so far already. Because, you know, the month just started. So I just finished like my 4th book this afternoon. So, anyway. So, Penny is a witch and Willem is a warlock, and well, she's not a witch, she's more like a familiar. And witches and warlocks need to have familiars in order to perform or conduct or produce any magic. And if you weren't familiar with the term, that's what a familiar is. If you weren't familiar with it, oh my god, just don't listen to me. So anyway, so Willem is prevented or banned from having a familiar because he did some shady shit before. So people say he's not allowed to have a familiar. And Penny is a familiar that's like part of like this familiar like support group. It's so freaking funny. And basically these familiars are just sitting in limbo waiting to be hired by a witch or a warlock to be a familiar for them. And Penny is actually considered by her best friend and her best friend's husband to work for Willem. Because they're like, oh, we didn't think anything of it. Like, he really needs a familiar, blah, blah, blah. So they decide to tell her to go to his house. And, you know, she's like, I need to move in order to help you. And it's like a whole problem and a whole to-do for Willem. He really doesn't want her to move in because he thinks like her fashion taste is atrocious. And he doesn't want anybody living with her because he's like anti-color when it comes to like decorating his house. It's just really, really funny. And they obviously end up developing a romance, and then something happens to Willem where she needs to help him. And that's pretty much what's going on. There's a bit of fake dating in this as well, and it's freaking hilarious because they decide to start, well, she tells him that they need to start fake dating. Oh, and one more thing. Also, Penny does live with her parents, and her parents are basically full-time familiars. They like barely live at the house anymore, so Penny has had to become like very independent, and she's the one that takes care of everything in the house. Like if the laundry piles up, if there's like dishes to be done, she has to do everything because she's the one that's mostly living there, not them, because she's not somebody's familiar. So she has to take care of everything, and her parents have never really been there for her. She's been the one that's like taking care of everything. So anyway, what was I gonna say about? Oh, so Penny has to leave and move in with Willem because she's like, well, if I move in with you, then we have to give people a reason as to why we're living together, because people are going to ask, why are we living together? Because it's like Willem is like hated and she's just like a familiar. So, and nobody can know that she's his familiar, because if she's registered as his familiar, how many times can I say familiar? Like a million times. Then he will be arrested, or just like, it's not going to be good. So, they decide to start, since she moved in with him, they decide to start fake dating, and she keeps on trying to take him to like, out to dinner or like functions that she does with her familiar society, and it's just so funny because he doesn't want to do any of it. All he wants to do is perform magic, and he's like, but then they start falling for each other, and it's just so freaking funny. So it's a really fun series. Okay, next up, I read A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. And after I really didn't like Blood Moon, I really wanted something like a better vampire book. And also, since I hadn't read that many vampire books at all this year, I think I only read like two or three, that I picked quite a few to read during Halloween. And usually I always do during Halloween. So I read Bare Bones, Blood Moon, and also these two books, because I also read the sequel to this, and also Go Hex Yourself. I mean, What the Hex has a warlock in it, so it was just really, really fun. I don't know if that's a witch or vampire, though. I might be messing that up. Don't listen to me. Just don't listen to me at all. Um, but I read A Tempest of Tea, and also I read the sequel, A Steeping of Blood. And this was the only book, I almost dropped my phone again, Jesus Christ. And this was the only book that was not on my TBR this month, pretty much. Um, because this book came out at like the end of September, like I believe it was September 23rd, yeah. But since it had just come out and I had read the first book already, and the first book was on my TBR for October, I just wanted to jump right into the second one, and I thought it was really, really fun. So basically, I'm just going to read the synopsis to you, and that will really explain like what these books are about, because I really love the synopsis of this. I really thought this was like more so of like a cozy fantasy book, but it's a lot more of a higher stakes book than I thought, but not like to the point where you're like panicking the whole time. And it's good. It's good. It kind of reminded me of Six of Crows, and what's so funny is that one of my other book besties that I met at Silent Book Club a couple months back, she had just finished A Tempest of Tea like a couple of weeks ago. She's one of those people that are like in the middle of like 20 books, and like I'm just not that type of person. But she decided to finish it like a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, Tempest of Tea kind of reminded me of Six of Crows retelling, and I was like, I actually thought the same exact thing as I was reading it, because basically it's about like a heist. But I did like the fantasy elements of these books a little bit more. But, you know, Six of Crows, you just fall in love with the characters. So that's why it's a 5-star duology for me. And I think What the Hex I rated a 4.25 as well, or maybe just a 4-star. And Blood Moon I rated 3 stars. Sorry, I didn't tell you guys what my ratings were of those two. So basically, this one says, "Why save the world when you can have tea? On the streets of White Roaring, Arthi Casimir is a criminal mastermind and collector of secrets. Her prestigious tea room transforms into an illegal bloodhouse by dark, catering to the vampires feared by society. Illegal bloodhouse by dark, catering to the vampires feared by society. Why can't I speak? But when her establishment is threatened, Arthi is forced to strike an unlikely deal with an alluring adversary to save it, and she can't do the job alone. Calling on some of the city's most skilled outcasts, Arthi hatches a plan to infiltrate the sinister, glittering vampire society known as the Anthurium. But not everyone in her ragtag crew is on her side, and as the truth behind the heist unfolds, Arthi finds herself in the midst of a conspiracy that will threaten the world as she knows it." Yeah. So it's just so good. So much fun. And then A Steeping of Blood, they have to confront their enemy, and it turns out to be like, so like it depends on which characters were turned into vampires from the first book, and we don't follow too many characters. I think we follow like 3 or 4 characters' point of views. And it's just so good. It was so much fun. I just had such a good time with this duology. And the second book, we have to confront one of the characters' enemies. Turns out to be like one of their parents, and she basically wants to not just kill humans, but she wants to kill vampires. And then it turns out that some people might be vampires themselves, even though they want to basically kill everyone because they think that nobody deserves to live. So it's that kind of book. And also we find out what the tea is. Oh my God, what's the tea? No. what the tea actually means and why they're called tempests of tea. And it was just really, really good, really fun. So this one says brewed to perfection. A romantic vampire fantasy novel. So it says Arthi Casimir has had her tea, now she's out for blood. White Roaring is sharpening its fangs after the deadly night that left the city in shambles. The press are dead, the public is calling for justice, vampires are in danger, and amid the turmoil, the Ram announces a celebration. So basically at the end of the book, we find out who the Ram is in the start of the new one, and the very last chapter is about like the Ram and like what their revenge is going to be against the Ram. And also like the reason why they say the press is dead is that the Ram cares a lot like about how they look and the press about them and everything. So it's very, very interesting. Um, the public is calling for justice. Vampires are in danger, and amid the turmoil, the Ram announces a celebration. I already read that. Still reeling from the bloodshed, Arthi Casimir has no time to mourn the death of anyone, let alone her own. She has no time for love either, even though it has saved her life. As Arthi navigates new emotions and new allies, she must resemble her scrambled crew and scrape what little they have to left to fight one last time, and she will need to face the ghosts of her past to do it. Ancillion. Why can I speak? So basically some people die, and they have to get back together in order to defeat their common enemy. So it's really fun. It was good. Okay, I think I rated both of them a 4.25. They were both really good. And then I read another sequel to another Halloween book that I read last Halloween, and that was Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. Poltergeist. I read the book of the other one. And the title of the other one. And the second one is called Curses in Cold Brew, by Allie K. Mulford and K.L. Morrison. And this came out at the beginning of September, but I really wanted to read it on Halloween. And this was another sapphic paranormal rom-com, And this is about, what's the main character's name again? Iris and Ramona. So Iris is a witch and Ramona is a demon. So it's a demon witch kind of fantasy book, romance fantasy book. And it's similar to like A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon, which I freaking loved. And basically, souls are going missing in the town. And obviously Ramona is a collector of of souls because she's a demon. And Ramona's supposed to be, kind of evil. But Iris pretty much has the hots for her. And what's so funny is that Iris, she needs to get a girlfriend. She needs to get laid. She needs to, find love. And she ends up falling for Ramona. And Ramona's very protective of Iris, and she thinks that she shouldn't be helping her to find out who is being taken. And that's pretty much what happens in this book. And it was fun. It was cute. I didn't love it as much as the first one. I think I just gave this one a 4 stars because I was kind of like hoping to feel like the Halloween immersive atmosphere a little bit more, but this one wasn't as Halloween inspired. But I really enjoyed like the last part of this book, like the ending of the book, because it sets up the third book really well, and it kind of left off on a bit of I would say a cliffhanger, but where you want to know more in the next book. So I'm very excited for that one. So, and then the last book that I read was a short story, which was Allie Hazelwood's short story for Amazon, and that is Hot for Slayer. If I could hold this properly. This was part of like a collection of short stories from Amazon. And you can read these all for free if you just have Amazon, like you don't have to have Kindle Unlimited. I think you could just read them for free anyway. And also if you have Audible, you can also listen to all of these for free on Audible. So I just listened to the audiobook going back and forth to the Halloween party I was invited to from Becca and by Becca and Zach. I've been friends with Becca for a long time, like over 20 years, so really long time. And they invited me to a Halloween party, and I was a vampire, so I was a vampire for the first time in my life, and I posted it on TikTok, what my costume was. It was so much fun. Um, and I just decided I wanted to be a vampire finally. So basically, this book, I hadn't read Mate yet by Ali Hazelwood. I actually have the audiobook. I'm thinking about possibly listening to it like this weekend. Maybe after I finish The Strength of the Few. I'm not really sure. Because there is going to be an audiobook for Between Two Kings this time, and I want to see where I can get that audiobook, which is the second book to The Kiss of the Basilisk. And then there's also The Strength of the Few, which is a sequel to The Will of the Many. So I need to get the audiobooks for those. So I don't know how much time I'm going to be able to have to listen to Mate. And also, I really want to finish The Tempest Blade as well. That's probably going to be the book that I prioritize finishing as an audiobook, obviously. So basically, this book is about Ethel and a vampire slayer, Laszlo. And Laszlo has basically lost his memory. He has amnesia. And he's trying to piece together why he cares about Ethel. And that's basically it. And Ethel is a vampire, and he is a vampire slayer. And it was funny, it was fun, it was cute, and that's pretty much it. I just wanted to have a fun, fluffy, goofy time. And I only rated it 3 stars because it's just a little short story. And for me, I don't mind the amnesia trope. I think it's funny, so I really don't care about the amnesia trope. The only trope that really, the 2 tropes that bother me is the insta-love and the cheating trope. Unless it's Magnolia Parks, because y'all know why I love Magnolia Parks so much. Not because of the cheating trope, but because I love the characters. So those are all the books that I read in the month of October. What was your favorite book and your least favorite book that you read this month? Let me know. I did a pretty good job of reading all the books, like I said, in the month of October that I really wanted to get to. I felt like there was something else I wanted to say about the books that I read this month. And I don't know why I'm like, I'll remember at the end, and then I always forget. So let me see if I can remember really quick looking back at this clip. So just give me a second. I remember, and I didn't even have to look it back up. So I wanted to update you guys on my fall watch list as well. I figured I would in my reading wrap-ups. So I did finish Wednesday with my best friend. I don't know if I said that in my September reading wrap-up, but we did finish that. And then I think I finished Sandman earlier this month in October. So I did finish the 2nd season of that as well. I'm in the middle of Andor right now. I haven't watched it in a while just because, I'm busy. And then usually my downtime, I like finishing books, But I'm hoping to finish that probably by next weekend because I only have 5 more episodes left. So I'm going to be watching that show again. But I did actually binge a show in the last 3 days because it was just half-hour episodes. And that is the 2nd season of Nobody Wants This. And if you guys don't watch it on Netflix, it is hysterical. And I kept on forgetting that the 2nd season had come out. So I'm like, I'm just going to binge this because it's only 10 episodes. And I finished it in 3 days. So I finished it this morning, actually. I watched all 3 episodes, and then I finished the book that I was reading. So accomplished today. So after I finish Andor, I'm kind of thinking I really want to jump into this series called The Hunting Wives. Or It's Sunny in Philadelphia, the most current season that I haven't seen. So those are the 2 on my watch list. But also, I'm hoping to finish The Hunting Wives before Stranger Things comes out. Because that's the only thing that I'm going to be watching at the end of November. So, and hopefully I can marathon that with my best friend after Thanksgiving. But not really sure when we're going to be able to do that. So, we probably won't be able to do that until like December 1st or something, like after Thanksgiving's over. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on my Instagram at CBW819 and check out my TikTok and Goodreads in the links below. And I hope you guys have a great night, day, whatever it may be. And just keep reading. Yeah, bye.